Welcome to the Inspire Collective podcast, where our goal is to inspire Christian men and women in the marketplace with all they need to positively influence those around them for God's kingdom. My name is Chris Bowen, and today we're sitting down with Wonder Maid's Chief Taste Adventurer, the president of Church of Wonders Incorporated, the former director of digital innovations of Northland, Nathan Clark. So let's get started. Nathan, it is a pleasure and a delight to have you on the Inspire Collective today. And I know that our viewers are going to get some great insight because I can tell this is already going to be a fun interview today. How are you, sir?
I'm doing so great, Chris. I really appreciate you having me on.
This is going to be a lot of fun because what we do is we go into the marketplace and we find some very unique businesses and some very unique people that are doing things a little bit different than others. And as I read your bio and looked a little bit at your website, I'm really excited to find out a little bit more about who you are and what you do. So we already introduced you as Wonder Maid. And so if you will, tell us what Wonder Maid for the listeners are. Maybe they've never heard of Wonder Maid. Tell us a little bit about Wonder Maid, how it come about, and what you actually do there.
Yeah, so my wife and I founded and we run and we're probably the world's most famous marshmallow makers, which is a weird flex, but it's what we do. 10 years ago, actually just 10 years ago, I gave her, after Christmas, a candy thermometer and a recipe for marshmallows as a gift, kind of this date night we could do. We have 6 kids right now, but at the time we had 4. And so, trying to find ways to have fun. And so I thought we'd make marshmallows after the kids were asleep, and that would be fun. And it was. And we made our first batch, and we kind of fell in love with them. And usually the first time you make something, it comes out okay. But these were like the best marshmallows we'd ever had. Awesome. So we just kept making them. We kept giving them to friends. Suddenly friends started asking if they could buy them. And we had sort of like this light bulb moment, this epiphany. If we love these and they love these and they want to buy them, I bet you there's a lot of people who would love and even want to buy our marshmallows. So we decided to start like a little Etsy shop, hobby business kind of thing. And it went viral that Christmas. And it just continues to grow. And so we've got a store here in Sanford, Florida, just on the north side of Orlando, where we make marshmallows and we make our own ice cream. We have a retail space where we sell chocolates, candies, gifts, all sorts of stuff. And then we also have a location at Disney Springs on the south side of Orlando, where we just sell marshmallows. The sign says Wonder Maid Gourmet Marshmallows. And every day people walk by and they go, gourmet marshmallows? Like what? What is that? And then we also sell online at wondermaid.com. And then we have partners all around the country, hundreds of stores, boutiques, high-end grocery shops, restaurants, gift stores who also stock our marshmallows and help people in every corner of this country discover the joy of Wonder Maid marshmallows.
Wow, that is amazing. And what a unique story. So a gourmet marshmallow. So I read a little bit about and kind of looked at your website, and I saw there's all kinds of flavors. So there's tons and tons of flavors out there, along with the ice cream and all that you do. So tell me a little bit about some of the unique flavors that maybe you guys have come up with to put in marshmallow, because most of our viewers, I'm sure, are like me, that when they think of marshmallows, the biggest thing we've ever done is maybe dip them in chocolate. And here you are making all different kinds and flavors of marshmallows. So tell me about some of your unique flavors.
Yeah, so we've done about 500 flavors. Wow. We tend to stock 25 to 30. Some of our more popular ones are traditional, like desserty things, like a s'mores, half vanilla, half chocolates, rolled in a crushed graham cracker. We do a churro marshmallow, key lime pie. And then we also do some that are infused with alcohol. Now, they're non-alcoholic in the end because marshmallows are 98% air and it's ABV. So all the alcohol ends up so trace that it doesn't really matter. But we do a bourbon that we make with Maker's Mark. We do rosé wine. We do a gold champagne where we actually hand paint 24 karat gold on the top of a champagne marshmallow. Yeah. And I know anybody listening right now, you can listen and go online to wondermaid.com and see the pictures, because you have to really see the gold champagne marshmallow to believe it. But we really we hear from people, hey, have you ever tried this flavor? And then we go, oh my gosh, we haven't. And we go try it. So we have a king cake that's about to come out for Mardi Gras. And the idea is gosh, marshmallows are so much fun already. Why not make them more fun with these crazy flavors?
Well, I guess I never really considered this until now, and you really have me intrigued about this marshmallow thing. So, whenever you start talking about the marshmallow, I see the excitement, and just because you're such an entrepreneur, and because you had such a great idea that no one else thought of, and it's just blowing off the charts. So, all these marshmallows, where are these actually made at? Where do you manufacture these marshmallows?
We actually make them at our Sanford store. So we've got the ice cream and the marshmallows, and we make our own s'mores up front. And then in the back, we have a cooking space and then a shipping space. And so, in December, we would have 40 to 50 people working, and we kind of split. A team of 6 works down at Disney, and then the rest of the staff work out of Sanford. So this last holiday season, we had 10 people who were cooking 3 shifts a day. Wow. Then we had the production team and the shipping team. And we've been doing this. Our 10th anniversary is this summer. So Wonder Made will be 10, which is awesome.
Wow.
And and we've really figured out a lot of the ins and outs on the production process so that we can quickly and efficiently cook really great marshmallows and then get them shipped out into the hands of people as fast as possible.
Okay, so not only do you have the locations there in Central Florida, you also ship these. So if somebody was trying to get some of these tasty marshmallows and experience this, because I know as soon as I get off this call, I'm going to do that. I'm going to order it. I'm sure there's some kind of variety pack to be able to taste some different flavors. So how would somebody actually get in touch with you to make an order?
Yeah, they can just go to wondermade.com. All the marshmallows are there. We have specials all the time. We have different sets, a boozy set, favorite set. There's a Valentine set. We'll do one for St. Patrick's. And then a lot of what we do is the shipping. People order directly, but we also partner with a lot of professionals, lawyers or accountants, small business owners, and we'll do everything from, like, we do a birthday cake marshmallow, right? So it tastes like cake covered in sprinkles. We also have birthday cards, and people give us their client list, and then we ship out little birthday boxes so that their clients can open these boxes, and the birthday marshmallows are there, and the card is there, and we've handwritten the note. So we do a lot of that, a lot of corporate gifting also, because, who doesn't love marshmallows, right?
Right.
Everybody smiles when they see them and they eat them. And we've done a lot with our packaging, won awards. They're beautifully packaged. And so we just get to deliver little bites of joy every single day.
That's awesome. Awesome. What a great role. And we know that your role is Chief Taste Adventurer for Wonder Made. And in fact, before the interview, I asked you about that title. So how would somebody get that title as Chief Taste Adventurer?
You have to eat the most marshmallows. I think that's what I've done. My wife and I run this together, and she likes to remind me she really does all the work. I do the sales, the marketing, the HR, some of the strategy stuff. And then I'm actually our chief taste tester. I'm that guy who gets so preoccupied when a restaurant serves me something and I know that they substituted an ingredient because it was better the last time. So I eat every time we do a new flavor, marshmallow or ice cream. I get every version of it we've done, and then part of my job is to pick which one's the best. So that's why I get to be the chief taste adventurer, because I eat all of it.
That's awesome. What a job. My mind just went to the old Lucy show when she was the on the candy line and she was grabbing all the chocolates and putting it in her
Yes.
mouth. I just kind of got a vision of you, Nathan, doing exactly the same thing with marshmallows. So. That
is me. I hate to complain about it, but when we launched our ice cream, there were days that I ate 10,000 calories of ice cream because the table was full. And like you said with Lucy, it was just cup after cup after cup of variations on these recipes, and I had to eat them all. So I can feel her pain. I know what she had to go through.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let's move a little bit and shift on the Church of Wonders Incorporated. How long have you been the president of this nonprofit?
Yeah, well, so it's funny. Church of Wonders is really just a church, but it's a little bit different than your normal church. I think I grew up going to church. My mom's a pastor, my brother's a pastor, his wife, my sister-in-law, is a pastor, and I spent a long time serving as a pastor in a couple of different roles at a large church, a mega church here in Orlando called Northland. And I think over the time that I did that, it was an incredible opportunity to connect and care for thousands, tens of thousands of people, really, and to help shepherd people. But even while I was doing it, there was something about the whole business of church that really was just hard for me. Like too larger percentage of my time went into oversight and management at the expense of what you would traditionally think of as more like ministry. And I don't think that other stuff is necessarily bad. Nobody wants a mega church to just fall apart at the seams because it doesn't have good oversight. But there was just something that stirred in my heart, and it just felt like it wasn't quite the thing that I was supposed to be doing. Like I said, we got these 6 kids. My wife and I were coming up on our 19th year of marriage. And when I thought about the next decade and what it was that I wanted to build up, I realized I didn't think that what I wanted to build up was a great institutional church. And I don't think what I wanted to look at as my legacy was paying down a mortgage on a building or even a successful building program. Really, I was kind of captured by the stuff that Jesus did, which was just a handful of people by and large that he spent his time with. And he just sowed love into their lives. And he just built them up at his own expense and raised kind of a family of families. And so what we ended up doing is leaving that role where I was like I said, a pastor at that church, and starting Church of Wonders instead. And, the name actually comes out of Acts 2, when the church started on the day of Pentecost. Mm-hmm. What happened is all these people, it says in the scripture, all these people, there were signs and wonders, right? And when I read wonders, I used to think of that as like miracles, pillars of fire and things like that happen. I believe that they happen in the Bible. But what I realized in the context of that story, that a lot of the wonders were actually the people whose hearts and lives were changed, right? Mm-hmm. So like Peter is up there talking. That crowd, some of them knew Peter. This wasn't that large of a place, and these people had been very active for years. And so it's not like a crowd of strangers hearing someone say something compelling. It was actually people who were maybe only 1 or 2 degrees separated, and they knew that he had been changed by Jesus. Like Zacchaeus, the tax collector. Like that guy was a bad dude, and everybody knew it. Yeah. Until he met Jesus. And suddenly everybody knew that he had become someone different. He became a wonder because of the work Jesus did in changing his heart. So our hope is to just help people realize that not just that they're the church, but that God has put us here because we are supposed to be the wonders. We're supposed to be the walking, talking, living, breathing testimonies, the miraculous signs of the realness of God in our lives.
Wow. And finding that niche, and that sounds like, Nathan, what you've done is you've really found your niche. And when people find their niche, life is easier when we really find that gifting that God has placed within us. So we want to welcome everyone to the Inspire Collective podcast today, where we're interviewing Nathan Clark, president of Church of Wonders, as well as the chief taste adventurer of Wonder Made. And wow, he is giving us some great insight today. And for those young entrepreneurs listening today, you just got to hear his story, just finding something every day and making it special, such as marshmallows, and now talking about this amazing Church of Wonders. So let's go a bit further with that if we can. And with the Church of Wonders Incorporated, we know that over 17 years you were online minister and director of digital innovations at Northland. Can you tell us a little bit about the role of what a director of digital innovations actually does? What does that position hold?
We all scroll through social media in between meetings. Why not fill your mind with inspiration during those precious minutes? Follow the Inspire Collective on social media and learn, share, and connect with other Christian leaders in the business world. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We can't wait to see you there.
Yeah, so kind of a little bit of everything. I mean, at this point in our lives, what part of our lives aren't affected by technology?
Right.
I think at the beginning when I started, it was more about like, hey, how do we have a good website? How do we then stream our service online? Northland was actually, I think we were the first church in the world to do concurrent live real-time streaming that we used a fiber line to do. People had to like call and get an IP address. It was really hard at the beginning. Uh-huh. And then we were the first church to stream to any mobile phones. Like literally the week that the iPhone released even the potential for it, another guy and myself were frantically coding all week, setting up the stuff. And so, we were kind of early adopters and all that stuff. And then over time, it really became even just things like, how do you call people faithfully? Like the best technology most of us have is just calling or texting people,
Right.
reaching out because we can and asking that question, hey, how are you doing today? Are you doing all right? Do you need me to pray for you? Connecting with people. And so that's really what we did. It looked a little different during COVID. We did some daily devotionals during COVID. We were able to reach 1 million people through these like super low tech, lo-fi, just congregants. Some of the staff, some of the pastors like myself would just take out our phones and stream these 5 to 10 minute devotionals 3 times a day. Like I said, millions of people were able to engage, people who couldn't go to church, people who couldn't go to their friend's house. Right. Many people who were at that point shut in and alone could remember that they're part of something bigger, and that God, through his grace and mercy, had given us a way to stay connected to each other, even during such a time of isolation and division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For us that's a little bit older, maybe listening today, we've had some great challenges of saying, how do we turn everything over to digital? It was a bit of a challenge. And as you stated, that it becomes much easier once you get used to the system and those kind of things. And you guys have really helped us with that. I can't even imagine being on the ground floor like you was talking about of getting the addresses out there. Can't imagine. So we're glad you young guys are taking that role and making it happen. So what tips could you actually give for other churches and the marketplace leaders who seek to have the innovative digital concept on their side to operate in this present time? What kind of advice could you give them?
Yeah, I think the single biggest counsel that I would give is that it's really easy to start to put all your focus on technology and not on the people you're hoping technology will help you care for better. And what happens then is you can get into this cycle where you're dumping all your money and resources into building systems. But for most of us now, there are systems right off the shelf you can use. And honestly, if you've got a church of 250 people, you can take a Google Doc and 10 faithful congregants and divide your whole congregation, and everybody can make a phone call or a text. And everyone in your church just have a spreadsheet on Google. It's a shared doc. Anybody can figure that out. It's not that hard. And suddenly everyone is connected, and you don't need a fancy anything to improve the quality of connection using some kind of off the shelf tools, as long as you've got people who are willing to link arms with you and prioritize people over those sort of products and processes.
Wow. So where could somebody actually connect with you to find out more about the Church of Wonders Incorporated? What would be the time and the space? Where would they be able to do that? Because I know that they're going to have some questions and some things they want to see about you. Where would they connect with you?
Yeah, anybody who's actually everybody goes to Orlando at some point, right? So you can always come over this way and have ice cream with me. If you want to talk about Jesus or church or anything like that, ice cream's on me. You can just drop me an email, nathan@wondermade.com. And or you can hit me up on social. All the WonderMade social stuff has the most reach, and I've got some people who help me monitor it. So you can always just send me a direct message. And owning a marshmallow and ice cream company is a great grace from God that helps us fund all the rest of the things we do with our life, which is really trying to love our neighbors and love God. And so it's perfectly appropriate to just drop WonderMade a line, and that's going to land with me.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And that's what the Inspire Collective is all about in the Inspire magazine, which you are going to be featured in. And so really excited to read your article. And I know people are saying, where do I find him? Where do I connect? It's all going to be in the magazine. And many of you have already received the magazine, so you can look him up there. Nathan Clark, you're going to find a great story about him there, a great article. And so ways to connect with him in both of these different adventures that he's living in right now. So I can't wait. I'll be there in May. I'm going to look you up up. I want to make sure I have some of those great marshmallows and
Love it.
and see what that's about. So that's exciting. It really is. It's really exciting because we're all about taking the marketplace now back into the church here at Inspire. People realize that marketplace actually funds ministry. So that's one of the things we're looking at for young entrepreneurs with great ideas. And I really believe that just one good idea, we're all just one good idea from really living our destiny and our purpose on life. So that's exciting. It's been really exciting talking to you about that. So what advice would you give some of the Inspire listeners who are seeking to start something new, but they're afraid to leave their comfort zone? Because a lot of people say, I want to, I know it's inside of me, but I don't know how to do that. So Nathan, tell us a little bit about how you did that and how you stepped outside of that comfort zone and really did what you were passionate about.
I mean, that's a great question. I tell you, if you're not outside of your comfort zone, you're probably not doing the thing God wants you to be doing. You know, I mean, honestly, God's really not all that interested in our comfort, but he has us here for plans and purposes. I'm really confident that scripture is absolutely 100% true for each and every one of us. And so I always think of it, I think my favorite story in the Bible is the story of Jonah, right? Because God says, hey, Jonah, I've got a thing for you to do. And Jonah's like, peace out. I'm not going to do that. And so he goes the opposite direction. He flees and he's willing to die instead of do what God has in store for him. And then what happens? God spares him from death and has a giant fish spit him up exactly where God said you should go in the first place.
Right.
And now Jonah's there. And he's got to smell bad, right? He's just been inside of a fish. So he's really smelly and he washed up and then still like 2 months later, he probably was like, oh my gosh, who smells so, it's still me, right? So I always think God's going to get you where you need to be, where he has designed you to be. And there's two ways that you can go. You can go with great hope and heart and enthusiasm, or you can go the way Jonah did and ended up covered in fish guts. All the baggage from your disobedience, from your rebellion, it's going to follow you for a while. And you're still in the end going to be in the place that God designed you for, because he put you here, not just for you, but for people who he wants you to bless. So for me, it's less about how do you overcome your fears and more how do you embrace the fact that life is, no matter what you do, life is full of scary things.
Right.
But when you go the place that God has put you, and when you are confident in him, I think that's enough to overcome the scary things, at least to take the first step.
Right.
At least to take that step, right? And then just have some great people to take those steps with you, people who will love you and help you when you screw up and just help you discern where you're supposed to be going.
Wow. So I know WonderMade is getting ready to celebrate 10 amazing years. So I want you to back up in your mind 15 years ago. Tell me what your thought was about marshmallows 15 years ago. I mean, this was something that was going to transform, change your life, become an entrepreneur, have great success in that. 15 years ago, where was your heart and your mind of really launching out? Has it always been in your life that you would do something amazing with marshmallows? Or did that just, is it something that just really came to you?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So if I go a few years further back, I owned a business when my wife and I first got married. And when she was probably 6 months pregnant, I had a dream and God spoke to me in a dream. And I know that's not very usual, but this was like literal voice of God and it was terrifying. And God said, hey, I need you to shut your business down because I've got something for you to do in the next 30 days and the business is in the way. And I woke up just like, what just happened? If you own a business, like that money is for something and it's for like your family and you need it. And I told my business partner and he was super cool about it. And so we called all of our clients and shut it down. And I told a friend of mine the next day at lunch, who was a pastor at the church that I worshiped at. And he said, oh my gosh, we spent years wishing we could hire you. We're the reason that God told you to shut your business down because we would have never talked to you because you don't ask a guy who owns a business to shut it down and work at a church. So I started working at the church at Northland now at this point, 18 years ago. And so if I go back 15 years ago, I was probably 3 years in, firmly committed to the fact that God had taken me out of business so that I could do ministry.
Wow.
I loved business ideas. I was still very entrepreneurial at the church.
Mhm.
But at that point, I thought that those were different things, right? Like having a business and doing ministry. I thought that was a fork in the road, and God had shifted me. And so I think I would have found this very surprising.
Sure. But now here you are, and
And now I think it's the same.
The look on your face. I see you're really thinking and contemplating that, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Your story is so unique and it's so refreshing. And I know our viewers, that's why they listen to these podcasts, is because it's great, innovative ideas, something unique, something different, something you don't hear every day. And of course, your story is one of those stories, one of those amazing stories of how you took something that we see every day, or at least every time we go to the grocery store, and all of a sudden God gave you such a creativity with it that it exploded into 500 flavors. I didn't even know there was 500 flavors. And you put marshmallow, so that's exciting. So we're going to make sure that you guys that are listening today have all the ways that you need to connect with Nathan Clark. It's there in the magazine and here on the podcast, of course, wondermade.com. Is that correct, Nathan? That's
wondermade.com. Yep.
Wondermade.com. It's that simple. I want you to go in, take a look at that. So do you have any upcoming events or projects that you would like to share with the listeners today? Maybe something special you have going on that they need to know about?
I do. I also, you caught me, like you said, you saw my face and I was sitting there thinking for a minute. So I don't want to miss saying, because that last question was so good, 15 years ago to now. And I don't want to miss what I realized is that the thing God has for you might be a vocational ministry, or it might be a business, but it's actually all ministry, right? I mean, think about who wrote the Bible. Like David wrote all these Psalms. He was a king. He was a shepherd. He wasn't a professional minister, right? And he wrote some of the most cherished, beloved reflections on God's character. And so I think I'll probably spend the rest of my day, Chris, thinking about that question and just what a crazy thing it is that God can absolutely exceed our expectations in crazy ways. In my case, through marshmallows. Yeah. So let me answer your actual question. I
love when we provoke the thoughts and the entrepreneurs really thinking that. That's good. That's good stuff. And hopefully that's what's happening with our listener as well.
Yeah. Well, and anybody who's entrepreneurial knows that you've got to be a little maniacally focused on the thing, but you've also got to be willing to absolutely shift and pivot away. And I think entrepreneurs are better suited to embrace a life of faith in God, because every step of the entrepreneurial life is a step of faith.
Right.
So for us, we're about to celebrate our 10th year as a business, which has been made up of many steps of faith. And so this June, we're having some marshmallow parties. 10 years is a pretty big milestone in a business. Right. And so we're going to starting in June, we're going to spend 10 months celebrating. Every month, we're going to celebrate some different facets. So June will be the marshmallow month, and July we'll celebrate with different ice cream things. August is National S'mores Day, which happens to be my birthday. And I'm even wearing a shirt, which you can't see, but I'm going to hold it up. And the shirt says, "Have some more fun."
I love it.
Isn't that great? And we're just going to keep doing celebrations all the way through. And the celebrations aren't just a way for us to, entice people to buy stuff. It's actually really intended to be a 10-month act of thanksgiving, because we didn't make it 10 years because of anything we did. We made it 10 years because of everything that every one of our customers has done. Every person who entrusted us with a purchase or with a date or with a gift. And we just want to spend as much of this year as we can saying thank you to people, because we wouldn't have made it 10 years without them.
So do you see this one day being a great franchise that's going to be global, something that people's going to grab a hold of?
Yeah, that's part of what we're trying to figure out this year. It was quite a thing to go from 1 to 2 locations during COVID. We moved into Disney Springs during COVID, which is crazy. And so now we're trying to figure out how we open up other locations around here. And whether we do that through, franchise or by ourselves. There's upsides to both. But if there's anything I've learned, it's that people really love what we're doing. They love our marshmallows. They love our ice cream. We've never really run into resistance there. And so I think there's certainly an opportunity for us to engage with more people and share some love.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome. We've been interviewing Nathan Clark of Wonder Made, and I know that he has encouraged you as entrepreneurs as you listen week by week. We always try to bring somebody very unique, and of course, Nathan is that person this week. So, Nathan, do you have any closing words of encouragement or advice that you could give to our Inspire listeners today?
Yeah, if there's any parting thought, our name, Wonder Made, actually comes out of Scripture. Psalm 139, when David wrote, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because people all the time assume that it's a reference to the way we make our food, our marshmallows or our ice creams, but it's actually about the way we want to remember to see people, right? Because it's so easy to see people on their transactional value. If you go to a drive-through, they treat you like you're $10 and you feel like it. You go home and you're like, man, they didn't treat me very well because they only treated you like you were worth $10. But how would you treat people if you thought truly that they were wonderfully made in God's image?
Wow.
And so there's two pieces. First, just, if you're hearing me say that right now, if you spent the next 24 hours really deliberately trying to interact with every person who cuts you off, your spouse, your kid who's full of sass today, any coworkers, any employees, if you spend even just 24 hours treating them like they in fact were wonderfully made, take note of what that does to your relationship. And then secondly, whatever the business is that you're doing, you've got a bigger purpose than just running the business. God's put you here for more than just making the money that he has blessed you with. And it's really to have an impact with your family, to have an impact on your employees. Ministering to employees, I think, is the next field of growth in the life of the global church, Right. Make sure you hold more firmly to that greater purpose he has you here for than anything else in your business. And God's going to take care of your family and your needs for provisions. But he's got you here for a purpose, and that purpose is to help people realize that they are intended to be signs and wonders of the grace and mercy of Jesus.
Absolutely. So keeping things in perspective and making sure they're in the right order of putting God first and family. That's awesome. Well, Nathan, it's been a pleasure interviewing you today. And I know the Inspire Collective listeners today have been greatly inspired by your story. And hopefully somebody's mind is twisting and turning out there. And maybe you're uncomfortable now because you know that you've got to make the first step, get out of your comfort zone, and you too can become an entrepreneur. So thank you, Nathan, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
We hope this conversation with Nathan Clark has left you feeling both motivated and inspired. For more content, you can sign up for the Inspire Collective magazine and get your first year subscription absolutely free. For more of this offer, visit us at inspirecollective.com. Thank you for tuning in and see you next week for more of the Inspire Collective podcast.